submission. What is it? How is it defined? We're hearing a lot about it. Let's go straight to it. Submission is defined as the action or fact of accepting or yielding to a superior force or to the will or authority of another person. So with that being said, submission is something we do all the time. We submit to the government, authority of the government, by paying taxes, not committing crimes, at least most of us. We submit to our bosses at work. We have a job description and we submit to the boss. We know our task, what we're supposed to do. We submit to their authority. Oh, you're not supposed to do that. Do this. Okay, got you. We also submit in our friendships, in our relationships with our friends. Say like our friend is better at making plans for trips, so we submit to that friend for their authority in that they know how to plan vacations. So they just say, okay guys, this is what we're gonna do. I need you to book here when this time, blah blah. And we say, okay, we submit to your authority because you know better than us in this category. But when it comes to relationships, if you're not part of any kind of religious background, a man could submit to a woman or a woman could submit to a man. It depends on the relationship. It's not written in stone. It's not like a law if you're not religious. Not for religious, and this is where people get the word submission from. It's totally different. Religious wise, the woman submits, not the woman, I'm sorry. The wife submits to her husband. But in the manosphere, they don't talk about wives and husbands. Actually, they're kind of against a lot of them are kind of against marriage. So I don't even know why they would bring up the word submission in the aspect of a man and a woman, where the woman is submissive to the man. But when we go to the Bible, how it's defined isn't how they put it out there. So let's just go to the Bible. I'll put all the verses in the description, all that stuff. There's a verse that says, wives, submit yourself to your husbands as you do to the Lord. They'll take that and say it means you must see your husband as a god. No. Your husband's not a god. Now, within the biblical sense, the husband must submit to God. He is the head. He is setting the example for the wife. How he submits himself to God by obeying his commandments, obeying his laws, reading his Bible, praying. The wife sees this as example as the head and say, you know what, as my husband is submitting to God, I must submit to my husband, in the sense that my husband is doing the right thing by following God. So since he knows best, I'm going to yield to his authority in the sense that he will make final decisions regarding our lives. So I submit to him like he submits to God. My husband knows what's best, so I'm going to listen. There's more to this verse. There's verse before that and verse after that, but people tend to ignore that. They just focus on the wife, but the husband has his duties as well regarding submission. So here's the whole verse. It's Ephesians 5:21-25, by the way. So it says, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Submit to one another. That's the first verse. Submit to each other. Submit, when translated from the Greek, it just means subject to. So it's basically give that person authority over you, to each other, for different reasons. The wife submits to her husband as he submits to God. And the husband, let me read all of it. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which it is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands and everything. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. Gave himself up for her. So husbands must subject themselves to their wives in the sense the way Christ sacrificed himself for the church. So husbands are supposed to protect, provide, and sacrifice for their wife. They must be willing to die for their wife. Not their boyfriend, not their girlfriend, for their wife. The Bible calls you to do everything, the husband, to take care of your family. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So you got your role as well, if you're looking for submission under the Bible's definition of submission. So, submission doesn't come with nothing. The husband has to love his wife like he loves his body. That's also the Bible. He must look at his wife as him and his wife are one flesh, and he must protect her like he would protect himself. He must clothe her like he would clothe himself. He must provide shelter like he would provide shelter for himself. He is providing for her. We're always talking about the wives and what the wives have to do, submit, They don't say cook and clean in the Bible. She's just yielding to his authority. What he feels is best for the family. That's what it is. It doesn't say cook and clean, but that's what we want to just relegate it to. But it's beyond that. He's leading. and he's leading by example by following God. This is the biblical sense. He must love her like Christ loves the church. So he has to sacrifice for her. He has to protect her. He has to provide for her. He has to love her. He is her protector, like Christ is our protector. Yeah. Yeah. Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. Be slow to anger and show your wife forgiveness and love. This will allow her to grow from her mistakes rather than being haunted by them. Don't deprive each other so you're not tempted by Satan because of lack of self-control. So there's always this talk about high value men have options and they can have other women on the side and cheat and blah, blah, blah. That's not biblical. So you're going to have a submissive wife while you're cheating on her or sleeping with other women? No, that's not biblical, people. That's not biblical. The Bible doesn't say men are supposed to be lusting and going after all these women. It doesn't say you because of your nature, you're free to do whatever you want. Your nature is kind of violent too. You're not free to kill either. You have to have some kind of self-control. You know, it's a choice. Like submission is a choice. It's not a nature. It's a choice. Being faithful is a choice. Now, when you're together, husband and wife, you must confess your faults to one another and pray for one another so you can be healed. When you're in a marriage, you should talk to each other. You should talk to each other about your faults. Be open about what you feel you're lacking, what they're lacking, and he should be able to say what he's lacking, and then you guys come together and pray about it. Now, if you feel like you have no faults, that's a big fault because we all have faults, and you should be able to confess that to your spouse and pray together that you can heal and grow together, and you help each other through this. Okay? So yes, again with the whole sleeping around thing, that's not biblical. No, there's no permission to do that just because you have a lot of money. That's not biblical. That's metaphorical. That's a whole other religion. Let marriage be held in honor among all, and let the marriage bed be undefiled, for God will judge the sexually immoral and adulterous. You're supposed to keep yourselves pure for one another. Everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery within his heart. Now, when you come to non-secular relationships, non-religious relationships, like I said before, there should be no rules, but there are people who are trying to say there are rules. And when you establish rules, you establish some kind of, order regarding how men and women should relate to each other, and you're saying this is how it's supposed to be. Like in the manosphere, they say, and even just people in general who are not religious, they just flip around and do whatever they want to do. They still think a woman is supposed to submit to a man no matter what. In my opinion, the manosphere is like a cult, and cult's not about work. Just like submission is not about work. Cult just means it's a united devotion to one person or one idea. So if the manosphere is a united devotion to one idea, that instead of God being the head, manhood is what leads everything else. The idea that kind of man is the God, and women are to look to men as God. Where in the Bible it's the man looks to God, the woman also looks to God, but she looks at her husband as the example of how to follow God. And the man, being the leader, shows her the way. But in the manosphere, it's, the God is man, if you get what I'm saying. So with that, the non-secular groups, a submissive person still has to, and even religious-wise, you have to be a healthy submissive person. You can't just let people walk all over you and man just telling you got to do this no matter what, and you're not thinking for yourself. It's not like that. So there are 8 traits for a healthy submissive person. I'll try to get through them quickly. Well, you have to have a deep self-awareness of yourself. You know what you have to offer as a submissive person, what your skills are and what you're willing to give. You have to understand trust. You know that trust isn't given. A lot of people try to give their trust first and then they're highly disappointed after. No, trust has to be earned. You just don't give it away to anybody and everyone. You're going to be burned out and you're going to be frustrated and you're going to be bitter. Trust is earned no matter what people try to tell you. Oh, trust. No, I got to see that I can trust you before I'm willing to submit to you. I got to see that you know what you're doing. Being aware of others' needs as a submissive, it's an important quality to have, to be aware what people need and being able to provide that need. But it goes with trust. You have to trust that person, because some people out there will try to take advantage of a person who is willing to be submissive, and they're narcissistic and trying to just use you. So being aware of needs is good, but being able to trust that person is vital, so they don't lead you astray. Submissives tend to be hardworking, of course. They're not lazy. They know what they got to do, and they do it. Healthy submissives have clear boundaries. They know their role, just like at a job. You know your job description. You know what you're supposed to do, and that's what you're supposed to do. Now, if your boss is trying to make you do other things, sweetie, no. This is my job description. This is what I'm supposed to do. You're trying to have me do other things. No, you're messing up the what we agreed upon, because relationships are about agreements, especially if you're being submissive. You're agreeing to do certain things. Beyond that, that's why you trust this person, that they're not going to try to take advantage of you and try to make you do things that you don't want to do. A healthy submissive person has clear boundaries of what they will and will not do. And they have to trust that person to not take advantage or go beyond what they already agreed upon. Healthy submissive have a clear purpose in life. They know what they're meant to do or not meant to do. They also have a peace of mind. They know their responsibilities and what they're not responsible for. And they don't feel guilty for not doing what they're not responsible for. Nothing else. Don't try to come at me with some extra stuff. This is what I am responsible for. That's why I have peace of mind. I'm a submissive person. I know what I'm going to do for you, and you know what you're going to do for me. Because it's not just a one-way street, of course, because when we submit to our job, our bosses, what we're getting back in return, we're getting back some money, right? Or we submit to the government by paying taxes and obeying the law. We get police protection, we get fire department, we get protection by the military from foreign countries. We are protected by being submissive to the government. Healthy submissive people tend to have high self-esteem. They have deep self-awareness. They don't give their trust away lightly. They're aware of people's needs. They work hard. They maintain clear boundaries, and they have a peace of mind, and that makes them very valuable. So a healthy submissive person is a very valuable person, and they have to be careful. So that's why a submissive person needs to have high self-esteem. If they don't, they're going to get walked all over. So if you don't have a high self-esteem, be careful when you're in a submissive role. Someone might take advantage of you. So set boundaries, and make sure you trust that person wholeheartedly before you even think of submitting. Especially these people who talk about they don't want to get married, they don't want to be a husband, they don't want a wife, but they want you to play a submissive role in your life. Be careful, because those people probably just want to use you if they're not looking for any kind of substantial relationship. Just saying. I hope I made a little clearer about what submission is regarding the biblical sense and the non-secular sense and the cult-like sense of the manosphere. But there's all kinds of relationship: monogamous, polyamorous, polygamous, and every person in their relationship can set their own rules. But if there's a group that says no, it's only one way, it's kind of dogma. It's kind of a religious thing, and you should really look into it, what they mean by submission, because it might vary. How you look at it in a biblical sense, where the husband will be a man of God, this person might not be a man of God, but he's still quoting the Bible, talking about you need to be submissive to him, but he doesn't play the role of a husband who will love you like a man of God will love you. So just be careful, all you submissive people out there. And I guess that's it. Thanks for listening. Bye.